and welcome back to the channel of Moist Motorbike Nonsense. Now, adventure bikes are obviously huge business these days, but I would wager not many people actually take them off-road. So why don't people make upright adventure bikes with road bias tyres and road-sized wheels, 17-inch front wheels, that sort of thing? Well, that's exactly what Triumph has done with this, the Tiger Sport 660, and it's a bit of a bargain too. So we're going to go for a ride, do a bit of a walk around and find out why everyone seems to think this is the best thing since Jesus invented sliced bread. I think it was Jesus, or was it one of his disciples, Hovis? Anyway, let's go. Yeah, I've come out to film this on a really dank afternoon, but as it turns out, this bike's actually the bee's knees for these sorts of conditions. But anyway, I've done a first impressions video of this where I hooned it around in the dry. This is going to be a bit more real world, and excuse the wind noise as well because it is just a bit windy. This Tiger Sport 660, let's do some facts, it costs 8.5 grand. It costs a bit more than the Yamaha Tracer 7 and a bit less than the Tracer 7 GT. That's the Tracer 7 with panniers. If you want to stick panniers on this from Triumph, they're 520 quid or 600 quid if you want them partially colour matched. It comes in black or blue, red is £100 more. Let's talk about some option prices. Heated grips, this one has heated grips. They are £205 and you get a little button there. You're going to focus? Yep. Up and down quick shift you can get for £285. LED fog lights £250, and hand guards, like adventure styly ones, 105 quid. It's got LED lights. You can add a belly pan for 165 quid, like an old school, like the old Street Triple colour coded ones. They look pretty decent. But yeah, this bike really is all about accessibility. Obviously it's affordable, it's got quite a low seat height, it's got proper name stuff on it though. It's got Showa forks, which aren't adjustable as you can see up there, but they're pretty decent. You've got a rear shock that is remotely adjustable if I come around here for preload. So Triumph is actually expecting people to take pillions and stuff, and you've got massive pillion grab handles or useful places to strap down dry bags and all that sort of stuff. You've got proper Michelin Road 5 tyres, which I wanged on about in my previous video. They're just really good in the wet and in changeable conditions, as we tend to get here in our Fair Isle. It's going great today. Sure, there are some bits that are obviously cheap, such as the colour mismatch between the brake lever and the foot peg. That was the same on the Trident, and obviously this shares a lot of Trident components. Fairly basic Nissan caliper, but you do get ABS obviously by law. I think it looks quite nice. It's pretty sharp. If I stick the daytime running light on, he says, you can see it's got a proper modern white LED look there. There's no old-fashioned halogenness. Indicators there for you indicator perverts. The screen, I'll probably do in a cutaway because I just banged my camera on that. But yeah, it's just like the Trident. You've got a monochrome one at the top for your revs and your speed. It also shows your gear up there. And you've got a separate colour screen down here which can show you your temperatures, your trips, your fuel range, that kind of stuff. And you can also get to show a massive gear indicator as well. If I hit the kill switch, there we go, like that. But yeah, the screen up here adjusts with this simple pull handle. That's nice that you get that. I don't think you even get an adjustable screen on the KTM 890 from memory. So Triumph hasn't cheaped out on the stuff that actually matters. They've just, you know, reduced the quality of some of the components, but as we'll get onto in the riding bit, it rides like a blooming peach. A big part of the way this ride's obviously down to having a glorious 3-cylinder engine. I'm a big fan of triples, but they are just great in terms of mixing torque and a bit of a top-end rush. This is the same 660cc engine that we found in last year's Trident of 81 horsepower and 64 newton meters of peak torque. It's got 10,000 mile valve service intervals, I think, 17 litre tank, and you'll do about 190 miles in the real world to a tank. Oh yeah, you've got 2 rider modes, ABS and switchable traction control, and the mode button is down there, so you can switch between your 2 modes, which basically road and rain. Now obviously the proof of all of this componentry is in the riding or something, the riding pudding. So I'm going to hop on, possibly tomorrow when it stopped raining, and take it for a ride and show you what I've discovered about this in a couple of 100 miles of riding it. It's really good, mostly. So yeah, let's cut to tomorrow when hopefully I won't be getting a wet bald bit. Let's go. That is what she said. Alright, it is now tomorrow. The weather's dried up. Sorry, that was all a bit rushed and a bit wet. I think a slug could have done a better walk around, but the most important thing about this bike is the way it rides. So yeah, 835mm seat height. You can drop that quite a bit with one of the accessory seats. But yeah, I'm just going to do this quite quickly because I've already done a big riding video of this, so click up there to watch that. But I'm going to tell you all the stuff I've learnt, because I've had this for 3 weeks now, so another 2 weeks since I did the first video on this, and I just want to tell you the things that I like and dislike. Actually, put it back in neutral. You're not going to be able to see this, but the side stand has a huge foot on the end, so you can park it on soft surfaces, and it's just really easy to get hold of with your foot as well, so it's not going to cause you any embarrassing tip overs. But anyway, into first, check the GoPro's still rolling, because it's usually a pain in the arse, and stops. And let's do some dual carriageway work very quickly. Dual carriageway work. Oh, I'm just going to do some work on the dual carriageway. Yeah, let's go. Engine's nice and warm, so 4 beans in first. Alright, it's 50 limit, so let's do 50 miles an hour. Now, I'm just going to quickly talk about some of the niggles on this bike, and there really aren't that many in terms of the riding. The biggest one, annoyingly, is that these are the sort of cheap mirrors with 2 nuts on that lock against each other. They haven't got loose, but these ones have, so this mirror does spin around from this bit. I've tightened it up. That's not really a problem with the bike, because obviously you can tighten it up should you wish. But anyway, let's talk about how it feels at dual carriageway speeds. Get up to 70. I'm just going to stick it in top and ease up to 70. Now, you might be able to hear I've got quite a lot of wind noise, because this screen, when I put it up, that does nothing but vibrate the top of my head, because I'm 6'3" and I'm just a bit too tall for it. Now, the screen does have a cutout in it, but it's not very aerodynamic-y, so I'd have to change the screen if I bought one of these, but that might be to do with my height. Most screens do annoy me, as regular viewers will know. If I do 70 miles an hour, this bike pulls about 5,300 RPM in 6th gear, just in case that sort of thing is important to you. The heated grips, I'll just talk about them. You get 3 levels, and you just cycle through. You get a red, an orange, and then a yellow thing on the dashboard telling you which mode you've got them in. And they're good. These are very, very thick, rich Gore-Tex gloves, and I can feel them through these gloves. But yeah, I'm getting slightly destroyed by wind noise here, and I'm not sure you'll actually be able to hear me. It is windy, but it's also, that screen is slightly doing my head in. So I'm going to get some twisty roads, because I think the real thing that's impressed me about this bike is how it handles. It is such a fun bike to ride. You can carry silly corner speed or straight line speed if you're that naughty boy in a Peugeot. But anyway, I'm going to cut to those because this is dull to watch, and we can talk about the brakes and the engine and the noise and all that good stuff. So I'll see you in a minute. One thing that really impresses me about this bike as we get to our twisty road section is how the engine feels like it's got its power pretty much everywhere through the rev range. So going from 30 to 50 in 3rd gear, it's already done it. Admittedly, I could have done that in 4th or 5th or 6th, but whenever you twist the throttle, it goes, and it goes pretty hard as well, like cruising past people in 50 and 60 limits in 4th gear and 5th gear. It feels almost like you're on a bigger bike, and that's just the beauty of a 3-cylinder engine. It's not clattery down low like a 2-cylinder, but it's got a similar torque to a 2-cylinder, and you can just leave it a gear higher everywhere than you think, and it just pulls you out. And when you're at low speeds and haven't got wind noise off the annoying screen, it sounds pretty good as well. But the ace in this bike's sleeve, if it had sleeves, is the handling. It is just a lovely, lovely bike to ride quickly down a road, even one that's a little bit greasy, a little bit wet. It rolls into corners really naturally, no nasty surprises. It doesn't get wiggly as you pick up the pace into slightly dodgy territory. It's just a joy. It's just a joy to ride. And I think the most telling thing about how this makes you feel is that I've not used my bike since I've had this, and I've got a KTM 1290 Super Adventure S, just bought it. I've only had it a month. I could have been going out for fun rides on that, but to be honest, I've just wanted to ride the Tiger, which is ridiculous because it's half the price and near, well, exactly half the horsepower. Would I have gone down there any quicker if I wasn't on YouTube? On my KTM, no, I wouldn't have done. And that is the thing, this has got such a grown-up chassis, such a confidence-inspiring feel from those Michelin Road 5 tyres, from the suspension setup, from the chassis geometry. Well, I just wouldn't have gone any faster on my KTM. Would I have been doing stupid pointless wheelies between every corner? Yes. Would I have been giggling a bit more? Possibly, yes. This, though, is almost as fast around the corner. Carrying corner speed, this gives you confidence, and it's a wonderful thing. And I think this is a bike that's going to appeal to more than just beginners or people who have passed their big bike license. This will appeal to people that want a commuter that you can have fun on at weekends, things like that. Now actually, for commuting, this would be pretty good because the bars aren't that wide, so you'll be able to nip around traffic and filter like a demon. Rather than our full fat GS, the bars are actually quite narrow. Yeah, I think this is a bike for everyone, and I know I sound like I've just digested Triumph's marketing guff, or probably repeating what the YouTubers say. I don't really watch them, other than 44 Teeth. Just a brilliant bike for the road, and it has no off-road pretensions. But I mean, if you mostly ride on the road, even if you want to downsize from something like a GS, maybe you're getting on a bit and you're finding big adventure bikes too heavy, like my dad, I would recommend one of these, because I have not had a moment of boredom on this bike. There are some downsides, which I'm going to talk about now. I've spoken about the mirrors, the ride, the rear shock. I don't know if someone has wound the preload. Hey, it's my bike. Well, it's not actually my bike. The preload on the rear shock, I don't know if it's to do with that, but the rear shock over broken surfaces, it is quite firm. It is quite firm. I rode this for 2 hours on broken B roads the other day, and I kind of needed to get off because my bottom was taking a pounding. I don't know how much of that would be improved by a softer seat. I think it is mostly due to the suspension. It just feels a little bit possibly not so well damped over sharp edge bumps. And if you're on a really broken B road, it can be a bit like, oh, this is tiring on the old anus. So yeah, that's pretty much the only downside, is the suspension can feel too firm over broken surfaces. But that might mean that it gets you some extra support in corners and all that kind of stuff, and this definitely gives you that. So yeah, interesting one. I wouldn't have expected when I looked at this bike to think it's going to be a machine that I can buy and keep up with sports bike riding mates on, because it's only a 660, it's only 80 horsepower, but if you know how to ride, and you've been riding, you've got experience, and you can, you know, ride the knackers off everything on the road, you will find a lot to like about this bike. I have, and like I said, I've been using it more than my KTM, which I'm promised I'm going to go home and ride after this. But yeah, that's kind of my conclusion really. 8.5 grand from Triumph gets you a bike that looks mostly beautifully finished, all the bits that you look at and touch and feel. There's some cheaper bits where you don't look, like the brake lever, the rear brake lever, that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's nitpicking, really. It doesn't lack anything. The fact that you can get this with an up and down quick shifter from the accessory catalogue, the fact it's got heated grips, it doesn't have cruise control. It is missing cruise control. But other than that, it's a decent package. It's a decent package, and lots of people have been coming up to me saying that looks really cool, that looks really nice. And I can't judge that because, well, look at my beard, I cannot judge aesthetics. So anyway, that was my final thoughts. 3 weeks living with a Tiger Sport 660. This impressed me. The Trident impressed me a couple of years ago. That felt really good, but that's kind of like a naked bike. You're not going to be doing necessarily daily trips on that. This has got weather protection. This just feels a wee bit more grown up, but it's not boring with it. So yeah, well done Triumph on add this to your coverage, your list of positive blooming Tiger Sport 660 reviews. Improve the suspension though, and the screen aerodynamics. There we go. Have that on your marketing feedback. Anyway, thank you for watching this nonsense. Stay tuned because there's plenty more coming. I've got Ducati Monster video coming up. I'm going to ride this KTM 1290 Super Duke Evo and hopefully the Husky Norden at some point soon as well. And on the car channel there's some expensive Mercedes and things like that. So yeah, if you've liked this, please hit like, do subscribe because it really helps me out, and in the comments scroll down and call me a trumpet, because that's the only thing I can think of. Goodbye. I'm going home to get my KTM and go and have probably not as much fun. Goodbye. I forgot to talk about the brakes. The brakes are absolutely fine. Yeah, honestly, I know they don't look very fancy. They're not all sexy, all single dancing radial calipers, but they've actually got loads of bite and they slow you really well. It's just not been a problem. You also don't get a huge amount of dive on the forks when you use them hard. And the back brake, oh, that works pretty well, and it's actually useful for dragging around town, keeping your balance and all that stuff. So U-turnists, you'll like this, I think.